up to 10 feet long, over 20 pounds heavy, forged using state-of-the-art metallurgy of the ancient world, and wielded only by the strongest soldiers ever fielded by one of history's greatest empires. These aren't stats from a fantasy RPG. These are the real descriptions behind the weapon that feels almost like it shouldn't exist. The molade. Just looking at the extreme visuals, the molade feels wrong. It's too long for a normal sword, too heavy for a spear. It's like a weapon designed by someone who refused to accept the limits of human strength and supply logistics. So why would any empire bother to create something this cumbersome, carry it across deserts and mountains, and then, at the height of its power, refuse to even let its own heroes be buried with one? Today, we are looking at why the Tang dynasty, the engineering powerhouse of the 7th century, designed this impossible blade, how it performs in real-world testing, and how they used it to solve the most dangerous problem in ancient warfare. To understand the molade, you need to understand the map. For centuries, the strongest military force in Eurasia was not armies, it was horses. Entire societies on the steppe lived in the saddle. They did not train cavalry, they were cavalry. The Tang dynasty ruled a completely different world. Cities, farms, bureaucracy, infrastructure. They were one of the most advanced agricultural civilizations on Earth. Every piece of land was optimized to grow food for people, not pasture for horses. As a result, they had a structural weakness. Raising war horses inside farmland was extremely inefficient. Trying to match steppe cavalry horse for horse was like trying to build an airport in the middle of Times Square. You could do it, but the cost was insane. And yet, they had to fight. A cavalry charge is pure physics. 1,000 pounds of muscle and armor charging at you at 30 miles per hour is a living battering ram. Most unprepared infantry formations simply collapsed under that momentum. But the Tang dynasty wasn't just rich. It was a sophisticated logistical superpower. While other empires struggled with basic stability, the Tang mastered systems. They came up with the perfect counter. They invested in the best horses, trained professional cavalry, and built massive frontier pastures. But that wasn't enough. They used their superior technology to engineer a superweapon. The molade was that counter. At 20 pounds, it was like swinging a 10-liter water tank on the end of a pole. The molade itself was a technical flex. The Tang were pioneers in wrapped steel technology. They figured out how to wield a razor-sharp, high-carbon edge onto a softer iron core. Too hard and the blade would shatter on impact. Too soft and it would bend. The Tang engineers found the perfect balance to handle the physics of a high-speed collision. This was a massive technical achievement. And they didn't give these weapons to just anyone. Molades were only issued to elite heavy infantry, which operated in highly disciplined combat phases. Here's how they usually tackle incoming enemy cavalries. At 200 meters, they opened up with heavy stationary crossbows, the long-range snipers. At 90 meters, waves of arrows created a bullet hell for the incoming riders. At 20 meters, this is a point of no return. It is now physically too late for the cavalry to stop. The Tang infantry lower their bows, grab their molades, and step into the collision point. That's the key. They don't chase the cavalry. They plant themselves. Using a molade against cavalry is like letting a speeding truck hit a brick wall. The cavalry's own momentum destroys them. Lined up side by side, the molades form a barricade of sheer mass and razor-sharp steel, an industrial meat grinder. When the first horses fall, a chain crash tears through the formation and shatters the entire charge. The molade wasn't designed for a fair fight against men. It was designed for the unfair task of stopping a tidal wave of charging horses. That's why they feel inhumanly large. This was part of a larger system that allowed the Tang to not only defend, but expand deep into the steppes. The main stage for this kind of warfare was the Heshi Corridor, the frontier between China and Central Asia. Tang armies marched over 1,200 miles, the distance from New York to Miami, to reach Heshi. Every 10-man squad had 6 horses just for their supplies. That's how they carried thousands of these 20-pound superweapons across this insane distance. That is how they delivered the ultimate hard counter. The Heshi frontier is where the molade earned its legend, holding the line against massive coalitions of Western Turks and Tibetans. That's why the game is releasing a new type of molade along with the Heshi map. The Tang Cavalry with molade infantry were basically the endgame guild of the 7th century. Some historical records even claim that the molade could cut down both rider and horse in a single strike. Now, is that true or just an exaggeration by historians? A team of modern engineers and martial artists run the test. A martial artist swings a reconstruction of the molade against dense rolled grass mats. When packed so tightly like this, these fibrous mats are tougher than a horse's neck. If the molade manages to cut through this, it will be more than capable of decapitating a warhorse. Even without cinematic decapitations, a single solid hit would be more than enough to kill a charging horse. Now let's really push the limit and see what happens if we put 2 thick chunks of bone-in pork on top of grass mats. This structure is tougher than a horse's torso. The molade is able to chop through both pieces of pork, but it doesn't cut the grass mats underneath. According to this forensic scientist, that amount of force would be enough to break a horse's spine, even if it can't literally slice the animal in half. Now here's the strange part. In most warrior cultures, legendary weapons are buried with their owners. Vikings, Romans, knights. Their swords go with them into the grave. But in the Tang dynasty, the molade was the only famous blade banned from burials. Why? Because these blades were so dangerous and vital that they were a national strategic asset. You could serve with one, but you could not keep it. You could die with it, or you could not take it to your grave. Even more mysterious, no confirmed original molade has ever been found. We have descriptions, art, training manuals, but the blades themselves have vanished. And then, almost as suddenly as they appeared, they disappeared from history. Only a few decades after the Tang collapsed, the Song dynasty abandoned the entire concept. That's because they lost access to the best iron mines and horse pastures in the north. The supply chain for the molada's elite requirements broke down. At the same time, crossbows and early gunpowder weapons became so effective that spending 10 years training a giant to swing a 20-pound blade became inefficient. The molade was vaulted by history. It was a weapon designed for a specific empire, at a specific peak of its power, a piece of endgame gear that was eventually patched out of existence. And this is why it feels like fantasy. But for a brief moment, it was the legendary Cavalry counter. Now, why does the game pair the new molade with the Tang Hengdao? And why did the great Tang dynasty suddenly collapse into the 5 dynasties chaos? Stay tuned for my lore on the Tang Hengdao when we unlock the Heshi map. Thank you for watching.